Hey, this is Brett Graham with Graham Truck Centers, and today I just wanted to walk through a few of the things that we are putting in our tire facilities to try to make the process of taking off tires and installing tires as safe as it possibly can be. There's a number of things that happen in a facility like this that just lend itself to injury, and we've tried to remove those out. And I'm going to walk through a few of those right now. First thing that I'd like to talk about is our wheel service procedures that I would argue is some of the most extensive that I know of in the industry that we are really proud of. So when a truck comes in and we remove a tire, the first process we do once we take the tire off is, so first thing we would do is check the, make sure the studs are not stretched with this tool, correct?
Yes.
And so what we're doing is, when you install a tire and someone just keeps hitting it with an impact, it eventually just, and they're getting it tighter and tighter to make sure that's tight, they stretch these studs out, which over time can lead to what we call wheel-offs, which are the most dangerous thing, I think, from a liability standpoint for us and for the customer, as well as the general public. So we check that. Once we've identified that all the studs are okay, we then go to the next step, which is to clean the studs to make sure all debris is removed. We use this tool here. Go ahead. That goes. So what that does is there's wire brushes in here, and it makes sure all the debris is removed off that stud. Okay, so once we've done that, then the next thing you'll do, at the end of the procedure, when you put the tire back on, you'll grease.
Yes.
And then we'll talk about the installation part when we get over here. So now we've got the tire off, we've got the wheel serviced. We're then going to, and I'm just for safety, for a time's sake, I'm going to show this one other feature over here on this wheel balancing machine. And today, right now, we're doing 4 1/4s, which are some of the heaviest tires that these guys have to manage by hand. And really the key thing here, this is a wheel balancing machine, but the most important part of it is this lift system that prevents them from having to get over here and try to get that tire on there. So you can go ahead and show them how you remove it without having to lift the tire by having this hydraulic air system. And so what that does is he doesn't have to lift it, and that's very important to prevent back injuries. So let's walk back over here and talk about a piece of equipment that probably really was the first significant piece of equipment we got that was just a huge factor when you're doing tires repetitively. The way that we did them for years is we would, once we got the tire and we had to dismount it from the wheel, we laid it on the ground and then we used bars and wrenches to dismount the tire. And the process of that, you have to soap it and then you have to stand on it. It's a tire that doesn't have air, it's not inflated, you're standing on top of an unstable surface. We had falls and injuries from that. And so what we decided to invest in was this Hunter machine. This thing literally does the entire process and takes the physical aspect out of it. So what this machine will do is it'll dismount the tire. Come on around, I'll get out of here.
It's going to soak the first bead of it. That's all you have to do.
And that's it. The tire's dismounted. And then the reverse procedure, put it right back on. And so it is a great piece of equipment that really takes all that physical aspect out of it and reduces the opportunity for slips and falls. He's going to reinstall the tire on the wheel now. And that's it. The tire is mounted. Awesome piece of equipment, especially when you're doing large quantities. We currently have these machines in 2 of our 4 locations. We have a 3rd location slated to get the machine this summer. The next thing I'm going to point out is, and that's good, Dust. You can kill it. This is an air inflation system that we just installed in our Sherman and Paris locations. As you know, when you air up a tire, you do it in a cage. But what this piece of equipment does is it manually inflates the tire at a predetermined setting. That way a guy walks away from it, gets busy, forgets. It will stop the inflation at 100 PSI. They'll finish it by hand to get it exactly where they want. You're also not standing over the tire and having to do it, putting yourself at risk. This is the bead seeder. We always use the what do you call them, cheetahs that you did by hand. Now it's done right here in this piece of equipment. Again, just makes it so much safer. The last part of the procedure, we're now ready to install the tire. All right, roll that booger on there. And I would argue that this might be the most important part of the process. So, you know, in the old days, what we did was put the tire on, put the nuts on, and then you just hit it with an impact and hope that you get it about right. I mean, there was no real precise way to finish that procedure. That was where we would, if you had a young guy that just didn't want to mess up, he would just keep hitting it, keep hitting it, keep hitting it, and that's how those studs get stretched. So today what we do is we use a smaller impact to put these studs back, these nuts back on the studs. It has a limiter on it to 475 PSI. It will stop right there. You can't tighten it anymore. But that's not tight enough. We finish it with a hand, what do you call that, hand wrench?
Cork wrench.
Cork wrench. So he's going to use this here.
Go back forward, the way the wheel gets on the straight.
So he just put those on to 475 PSI. He will now finish it with the torque wrench. And what that will ensure is that it's torqued at the exact specifications and that we're looking for, which is what? Slightly more than 475, right, Dusty?
Yes, sir.
475
to 500.
475 to 500. You know, you can have, and we've had this happen in the past where we've identified an impact that had gotten weak, and you really can't tell unless you have it calibrated. When we do it by hand, it just ensures that that occurs. Hey, Dusty.
Yes, sir.
Just do a couple of them, and that way they can see exactly. Yeah, no, I know. That's how you would do it. I understand. For the sake of time.
I'm going to go slow with the torque wrench. You just don't want to pop them on there.
And so once it reaches the right the right pounds,
it'll break over.
So that makes sure that we've got them exactly to the OE specifications. Hope you enjoyed that. That's just some of the things that we do at Graham Truck Centers to make sure that we reduce liability and not only injuries for our employees, but liability for the company, liability for our customers, and liability for the general public.